All right, we are here today. We're going to talk a little bit about sleep and how sleep impacts your health. My name is Christina Howell. I am an occupational therapist and I am also a certified health coach.
And I am Dr. Esra Shermadou. I'm a board certified family medicine physician. And so we thought that talking about sleep is a great way to get started on this little show that we're going to be starting here, talking about different health topics. And with Chrissy's background as a health coach, she's going to help us with different tips in various aspects of life so that we can start living healthier, happier, and more energetic lives.
Absolutely. So in my main role as an occupational therapist, I work with a lot of individuals who've had some type of neurological impairment, whether that's a stroke or maybe they're dealing with a progressive diagnosis such as dementia or Parkinson's disease. And sleep is a big part of something that we talk about and address. We know that sleep is important for our recovery and it's important for just brain health as a whole.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. And I think the same goes for, the different patients and people that I work with as well. Sleep affects not only our weight and the way that we interact with others, our hormone levels, and not getting sleep on a daily basis, that starts to have a significant impact on our health. So it's a very important topic for everybody. In fact, I believe 1 in 3 Americans don't get enough sleep. So that's a big number.
That is a big number. That's 33%, right?
Yeah,
that's 33% of the population is not sleeping the way that they should. And, and maybe that's not you all the time. Like sometimes I think my sleep is good and sometimes it's not. And that's when I really have to dive back into like, what are those good sleep habits and being mindful of that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, Esra. So why does sleep matter so much? And what happens if we don't get enough?
Yeah, so sleep is very important. It's our body's time to just kind of recover and just kind of regenerate itself. It's important also just for regulation of our hormones too. So when we talk about sleep, there are 4 main stages of sleep. And so there's, our REM sleep, which a lot of people know about. It's kind of like when we dream. And then we have our non-REM sleep, and there's actually 3 stages to that part. So we'll just talk about the non-REM as like N1, N2, and N3.
Okay.
Just to kind of simplify things. So during N1, this is kind of like when we're starting to get a little bit fuzzy, just kind of like in and out. Our body's kind of slowly starting to relax, but very easily awakeable if we hear a noise or something like that. So, that will then lead us into our N2 stage, which is when it's still light sleep, but of course deeper than the first one. And during this phase, our body is starting to slow down a little bit. So our heart rate is dropping, body temperature is dropping as well, and our breathing is starting to slow down too. And so during this time, our brain is also locking in some of our memory as well too. And then we go into our N3 sleep, and this is our slow wave or restorative sleep. So this is where recovery occurs. So this is where, your muscle growth occurs. This is where your immune function is kind of restored and improving itself. And this is also where a lot of our memory is also really solidifying too. And so very, very important part of our sleep. And our body's also in a deeper sleep, of course, at this phase, and definitely harder to wake up if somebody's trying to wake you up. And then we go into our REM sleep, which is, of course, when we dream. A very deep sleep during this time as well. And this is where kind of like our emotions are consolidated. There's a lot of like focus on the brain and our memory as well too. So a lot of cognitive things going on during that time. In our body, we cycle through these stages throughout the night. So it's not like you're just in, the first part of the night, and then, you end in REM sleep and that's it. No, it's throughout the night, you're going in and out of these cycles. So we go through about 4 to 6, we go through these 4 cycles about 4 to 6 times every night. So,
okay.
Yeah. So each little part has its own important function. So that's why it's important to, get enough sleep and not waking up throughout the night so that each part can occur and your body can do its thing.
Yeah, and I think I like that thank you for sharing all that and all and the different stages. And I think we can really think about it like, yes, there are those 4 different ones, but there's, half is like a lighter sleep and half is a deeper sleep. And I think that you pointed out like it's not only good for us like mentally, like you mentioned, we're storing memories, but then also helping to regulate our emotions, and then also like physical healing, occurring as well. So I think that really shows that sleep is not just a thing that you just should do, but it has benefits for you in all aspects of life and function. So that's
even like
super
immune
important.
function, and like that's why
Oh
like
yes, you
people,
mentioned that too.
if you don't sleep well, you tend to get sick a little bit more often, and so
Yeah.
that's why sleep is a good part of recovery. And when you're sick, you should sleep. So there's reasoning behind that.
Yeah, that is so cool. That is so cool.
It is. It's crazy.
It is crazy.
The body's amazing.
Yeah, it's important. And that's why, as an OT, sleep and rest is its whole occupation.
100%.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. So, Esra, I know that we have both kind of established that we do address sleep a lot with the people that we have the opportunity to work with. And we've also established why sleep is so important. But then what is it that impacts our sleep? There are a lot of different things that I commonly see and that people will tell me or that I even myself have experienced. Yeah. So, sometimes a lot of increased stress, whether that is emotional or even physical. I know it's one thing that people will say impacts their sleep a lot, or maybe they don't realize it, right? But it is impacting their sleep.
Absolutely.
Yep. A lack of routine. Being very inconsistent. Those inconsistent sleep and wake times are not beneficial for good sleep.
Even on weekends.
Even on weekends, yes, that's a big one. That's a big one. Or like in folks, once they've ratired.
Yeah, that's true.
And then they start, I've met people who are like, well, I just watch TV until 3 a.m. and they want to get up and start their day at 7. And then that isn't always conducive to the best sleep.
Not exactly.
Not exactly, right? Not typically. And then, some of the other things are like caffeine, if you're a caffeine drinker, late at night, exposure to screens, which is a super common thing, I think, now.
Absolutely.
We're blessed with technology, right? We have this great technology, but using it right before bed is not always conducive to the best sleep. So,
nope. Yeah. Unfortunately not.
Yeah. Okay, Esra. So we just talked a little bit about some lifestyle factors that we know that can impact our sleep. Can you talk to us a little bit about what types of physiological factors you might see with maybe your patients or clients that you're working with, or that really impact our sleep or sleep impacts them?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the big like hormones or things that people talk about a lot these days is cortisol, and you don't want high cortisol and all of that. And while some of that might be a little bit too much, and this is a good point, if you're not sleeping well on a long-term basis, then that certainly is going to affect your cortisol levels. And so normally cortisol levels peak in the morning and then they kind of like slowly decline during the day. But if you're not sleeping correctly, or if you're staying up late, or your sleep is just off, your cortisol levels aren't necessarily going to peak in the morning, and that peak is kind of what helps wakes us up. And so if your sleep is off, your cortisol levels are going to be off. You're not going to get that peak in the morning, and you're just going to be more groggy from that in general. And then we know that maybe you've noticed it yourself, or know other people have talked about it, is like if we're not sleeping well, we're often hungrier that day. And that's because, that sleep is going to affect our normal hunger cues and our hunger hormones, ghrelin and leptin. And so that can leave us more snacky during the day and just kind of like eating mindlessly, whether it's just trying to give ourselves energy to kind of keep going, or, we're just not thinking as we normally would. Testosterone is also affected by poor sleep. And so this is a big one for males, but also females too. But, certainly we're going to see it greater in males. But there was a study that looked at residents who worked in the hospital. And, so certainly if you're in residency, you're not really sleeping well, especially if you're on call in the hospital. And so these residents were getting less than 5 hours of sleep, and they compared them to just regular patients who were in the hospital too. And so they noticed that the residents, by the end of this study, had 10 to 15% lower testosterone levels than when they started. And so that's a decent drop in your testosterone levels that can be, easily fixed if you just slept well. And so I think those are some of the major ones that people will talk about affecting, being affected by sleep. So definitely has a great impact on the body.
Yeah,
for sure.
absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. With all those hormones too. And I just think, if you're not sleeping well, and then all of a sudden you're, like you said, you're eating more than usual, your sex hormones are thrown off, and you just feel crummy because your cortisol release is not the way it should be through the day. Like, that is probably not going to feel optimal for you to be your best self.
Absolutely.
So.
And then you're not going to have the energy to like work out or do any other healthy habits, or, even functionally during the day, you're probably not going to be, thinking as well. And it's probably going to take you much longer to get through things that normally wouldn't. So yeah, I think in general, it just leads to a pretty crummy day.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think I know, I am a big nerd when it comes out to like, neuroscience, things like that, and all about our nervous system.
Absolutely.
So I know that too, if you're sleeping poorly, that can impact the function of your like prefrontal cortex, which really has to do with those higher level thinking skills.
Yeah.
So, if you're problem solving or you're planning, you're making decisions, like you said, you're going to probably not feel good, but you're also not going to be thinking super good either. No. And again, we're just not going to be our best selves without good quality sleep.
There was even a study, and I can't remember the exacts of it, but I think it was like if you slept less than, was it 5 hours or, I'll have to go back and look at it. But it was like something where if you, decrease sleep for, I think 48 hours was equivalent, your brain on like that little of sleep was equivalent to that of like being drunk.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So it was pretty significant impact. I was like, wow.
Yeah. That is significant. That's not good. That's definitely not good. That's not good. And, I'm sure you have encountered this too, but I have met individuals who are like, well, I just get 6 hours of sleep every night. I get 5, I get 4, and that's fine. That's all that I need. And, I know that there are, some studies out there that show some people truly don't need the recommended 7 to 8 hours of sleep at night. But that is not very many people. Yes. So maybe you are one of those unicorns that doesn't require that much sleep, but the probability of that, I think, is pretty low. So,
all right, Chrissy. So, with your health coaching background, tell us, what tips do you normally give people to try to help with their sleep?
Yeah. Thank you for asking. So, there are a lot of things that are really good for our sleep, and there are a lot of things that are really bad for our sleep. For everyone, it's obviously going to be very person dependent, but there are definitely some common themes that I tend to hit on with people. Okay. So some of the most basic are, going to bed and waking up around the same times each day. So even on the weekends, on vacations, things like that, trying to keep it consistent. Rough. That is rough, and it can be hard, I know.
Yes.
Some variance, like I even say within an hour or so, that's not going to be terrible. Okay. But if there are some nights you're going to bed at 8 p.m. and some nights you're going to bed at 1 a.m. and you're still expecting yourself to get up at 6 a.m. or maybe some days you sleep till 11, that's really can be disruptive to those sleep cycles, right? Yes.
Absolutely.
One area for opportunity for a lot of people is, identifying and fine-tuning a bedtime routine. Yeah. So that just gives our body some sleepy cues, like, okay, it's time for bed now. Yeah. That way, if there are variances, we're on vacation, it's the weekend, things like that, we can still hope to be consistent and slip into those sleep cycles as we're supposed to, as you were talking to us about.
That's good. Yeah, I do find that a big part, and it seems so simple, but just identifying things like that we're doing, because a lot of times people just don't realize it and they don't know what they're doing. They don't know that they're doing something wrong. But once you just kind of tell them like, think about or pay attention to this, that just makes them more aware. And I think that has like a significant impact in their ability to change, because a lot of times we do things and we don't even notice it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's a very good point, especially if it's like a new concept to you that you're like, well, I don't know. I'll go to bed when I'm ready to go to bed. It's like, no, think about and just, like you said, pay attention to what are some of those things you're doing before you go to bed. Yeah. Do you, pack your lunch for the next day and brush your teeth? And do you watch a little bit of TV? Well, that's what you're doing before bed. Now, can we look at those things and see, are there things that you're doing that are conducive for sleep or things that are not?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I
Yeah.
think even a lot of times people will just kind of like you briefly mentioned, like just kind of watch TV mindlessly, just waiting for sleep to come upon them, but not knowing that, watching TV, the sound, the blue light, that excitement is, activating their brain and everything. And that's what's causing them to stay up later.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
So I feel like TV is a big part of what a lot of people do, but I certainly don't tend to recommend watching TV before you go to bed for a lot of those reasons that you just mentioned.
Yeah.
And especially like if you're watching something that you're interested in, that's very
true.
engaging, then not only do you have the sound and the light that is engaging our brain when we want it to start to wind down, but now you're just tuned in to the TV, whereas you need to be letting your body kind of start to get sleepy. And another like big no-no is like watching TV in bed or watching TV when you are trying to fall asleep, then in bed. Or people will have the TV on as they sleep.
Yeah.
And it's for those exact same things that you mentioned, the light and the sound. Even if, let's say, you have started to slip into sleep, that's going to prevent you from getting into some of those deeper phases of sleep.
Absolutely.
Because your brain is still processing that.
Yeah. And I think now it's so much easier because you have your cell phone and you can just watch things, whether it's on Instagram, YouTube, whatever. You don't even have to have a physical TV in your room. You just have your phone right there, as you're putting it onto charge, you just thought of something. Let me just look it up really quick. And then before you know it, half hour later, you're still looking.
Yes. And I'm guilty of that myself. And I even know that it's not a good thing. So I realize that it's not always an easy thing to change, but it's more something to just be mindful of, right?
100%.
Like if that becomes part of your practice, that then your body, it is your routine, but it's not always conducive to the best sleep.
Yes. Absolutely.
And, if that screen time is a part of your routine and you're like, well, okay, I hear what you're saying. I'll try to take it out. Now what am I going to do? It's like, what are some other relaxing activities?
Yes. Tell us.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So some that I like to recommend to people, if you feel like you like having something in the background, like you like that noise, maybe you're listening to a podcast or maybe you're listening to some relaxing music. If you like that auditory component and that's helpful for you, that can be beneficial.
Yeah.
Reading, the jury can be out on this. I personally find that it can be helpful. The caveat is if you are like a really big reader and you can't put it down, then maybe reading is not always a good option. But if you can be reading and then listen to those sleepy cues and just kind of put it down, reading can be very helpful.
Yeah.
And then another one for my folks who maybe find that you have like racing thoughts, you can't get your brain to kind of shut down, things like meditation or, prayer, if that's something that you enjoy, that can sometimes be helpful.
Journaling is another one that I've heard. Yeah.
Yes. Journaling is a big one.
Yes.
And I'll teach people about something called brain dumping, where it's like if you're laying in bed and you can't get your brain to shut off, it's just going. It's like you don't even turn the lights on. You just whip out that journal and you just jot down whatever it is that's in your head. And sometimes just writing it down will appease your brain enough to kind of let it start to calm down.
Yeah.
And the intention is not to read it. You just leave it.
Okay.
Yeah. So I like brain dumping a lot as well.
That's something that I definitely wanted to start trying. So
yeah,
I should start tonight.
Yeah, there you go.
I'll
there
let
you
you know.
go. Yeah, let me know how it goes. Yeah, absolutely. So I know that those are just a few things that I like to talk to people about, but those are some usually like pretty simple in some ways, things like good place to start.
Absolutely.
And then, if someone has those things in line, then it's like exploring things a little bit more in depth and more specifically, but those are always good places to start.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's important that, you don't obviously have to do all of this at once. And I think if you start or if you try to do all of this in once, probably not going to succeed. So I would definitely say starting with one, and you're not going to be perfect right away. I mean, if you are, awesome, great.
Yeah.
But sometimes, you're going to fall back into your routines. Like, like you mentioned, like the scrolling thing, you do that too sometimes.
Yeah.
And, we're not perfect. We're human. But number one, just kind of being aware of it and just being aware of what you do before bed. And then just be like, okay, let me pick one thing, let me maybe turn off the TV and switch to a podcast or some music or, white noise or something like that, just something different. You're still having some sort of stimulus. So just kind of making some slow transitions and kind of going from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it could be that one small thing
Yeah.
that makes a big difference for your sleep. But like you said, if you try everything at once, how do you know it actually works?
Yeah.
So yeah, just start
Absolutely.
small.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well,
Yeah.
this was great.
Yeah.
I'm so glad we sat down to do this.
Yes.
And I'm definitely looking forward to making some changes in my sleep because it's definitely not very good lately, but you know, work in progress.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I can recognize in myself I need to do better about it too sometimes. So it's none of, like you said, nobody's perfect.
No, I know. And I like a sleep routine. Like I remember like years ago, like when I had a sleep routine, like it was so good. Like, and I would sleep early and, you know, I would like start to wind down early and my friends and like my family would be like, why it's so early? And like, so, you know, I'm Arab and in the Middle East, like we stay up late. And so everything that we do is late at night. And so it's very like, I'm like going to bed and they're just like getting started. Like people are coming over and I'm just like, no, like
it's bedtime.
I'm sticking to my routine. I don't care what. Like,
yeah.
So it's very different. But yeah, I mean, I think it works the best. And you know, wake up and go to sleep at the same time every night. As much as you can. As much as you can. Like obviously if you're going to be on vacation and stuff like that, you know, live life, you know? But just know that it's probably not going to be the greatest. You're going to be a little bit off, but you know, enjoy your life while you can to the best that you can. And then when you go back home, start all over.
Yeah. No, I think that you point out a really great point too. In that like sometimes in your life it might change.
Yeah.
But let's say, you know, I can no longer go to bed at 8 p.m. I have to start going to bed at 11 p.m. But what did I do before that helped my sleep? Did I have a bedtime routine?
Yeah.
And implement that bedtime routine, even if you're going to bed at 11.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
but like
100%.
you said, there's going to be variances sometimes. But a week on vacation and living life a little bit is not going to completely disrupt everything.
Yeah.
You might find going home, it takes a little bit to get back into it. But if you're just diligent with that routine and just picking things back up, like it's definitely going to help. So
yes, absolutely. So great tips, great conversation.
Yeah.
I hope you guys all enjoyed this. And I would say take one tip that Chrissy gave us here and try to start implementing it and let us know how it works out for you.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes. We'll see you guys next time.